was without a jacket. Heather's Spider Baby. The Fisher King. Blue Velvet. Videodrome. Léon, or The Professional. Daisies, that's 7. The Evil Dead 2, that was 8. And Evil Dead 2 is 8. Daisies is 9. Or Sedmikrasky, I believe that's how I'm probably butchering it. It's Czechoslovakian. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation there, but Daisies. Ah, The Crow. We'll round it out with The Crow. It was really, you might not notice it if you're, I don't know, maybe past, if you're younger than 27 or so, maybe a little older. Anyways, my point is, you might not realize the significance of that film, but basically, badass film. It started basically that whole genre. There was nothing like it before. I'm not gonna talk too much about The Crow. I already just started. But just to finish that thought about The Crow, the integration of industrial music and basically quote unquote cool music was just mind blowing. It was done so well. As you may or may not know, it's based on a graphic novel or a comic or something. And it has that feel. It really does have that feel. I forget who the director is. It might be Alex Proyas. I think that's who it was. But just really dealt with the material so perfectly. And of course, Brandon Lee is enigmatic. He was just shining brightly at the time. If you haven't watched The Crow, then you should watch that. The first thing I was astounded by was the fact that I hadn't heard of it, and then you know, as the internet, these are pretty much all these films are. You don't want to label them as art films, but they were made by artists. They were made by people who cared about the craft and who were either trying to, you know, they were having fun with the medium. They were also being serious about the medium. They were pushing the boundaries of the medium. Oh, Charlie Chaplin, City Lights was one of them. So. Geez, so many films. I'm gonna have to think of which ones I want to knock off. But anyways, regardless, Spider Baby's still up there. Spider Baby's probably top 3 of sort of favorite films of all for me. I definitely don't want to give any spoilers about any of the films I talk about. But one of the things I really love about Spider Baby is it looks so great. I mean, it's an independent film. They made it for peanuts back in the day. I mean when I say peanuts, I mean like I'm just throwing a number out. I don't remember. I want to say like $64,000, which, if you know anything about films and how much they cost to make, it's nothing. Even back then, that was nothing. So, and plus they had Lon Chaney Jr., who was at the time not a big star, but he had been a horror film actor. Spider Baby was made for a little bit of money. Relatively unknown actors, except for him, Lon Chaney Jr. and Manti Moreland, who's famous for playing a scared guy. He's an African American guy who was famous for playing a scared gentleman. But there's something really sweet about that film. It's you can tell it was a labor of love when they made it. not only that, it's thought-provoking. It's a comedy, but it's definitely interesting. It's hard to say exactly why I love it so much. It just it gets to you. It's when you watch it. It's and one thing I really want to make this clear. Don't, especially if you've never heard of these films that I'm talking about, do not research these films. Do as little research as you can on these films. That's one downside to this whole internet thing is, in this kind of a case where you should go in fresh, you have easy access to the information. So, and to a lot of bad information or stupid information about it. So, please don't read any reviews. I'm not even reviewing them really, like, you know, I'm not telling you the storyline or anything like that, but I'm just telling you why I like them. So I'm trying to be very general here. So Spider Baby, it just gets to you. It feels like, if you're artistic in any way, it feels like it's a movie that if you and your buddies, your artistic buddies, had the funds for and the motivation for, it feels like a movie you would make. And I mean that in the highest regard. I mean, it is something that you would aspire to make, not that you would make something that great. But it's directed by Jack Hill, who was more famous later on for things like Jackie Brown. He's the guy who made Pam Grier famous. There's a little nugget there. So, yeah. But Jack Hill is great, and actually I love Switchblade Sisters, which is another one of his films. Swinging Cheerleaders is okay, but it's a little too, what's the word? I don't know. It's just actually kind of boring, actually, to be honest. Swinging Cheerleaders. Don't be misled by the names. They're just names of films. They're not. They're deeper than they seem. And Switchblade Sisters is really great. Man, these guys are not waving. I usually quiet down at stoplights, especially if there's someone near me who has their window open. I feel like they're listening to me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Wow, that film. When I first saw that film, I was blown away. It's not even the fact that it's scary, and it's kind of a little bit, but it's more, honestly, it's more of a dark comedy. I do not like horror films, Hollywood horror films in general. They're poorly made. They follow these stupid conventions that don't work on for me. I don't know. I guess they work on some people, but you have to pace it out. There has to be some suspense there. Anyways, but again, it's not terribly scary. It's just the way it's made. It's actually beautifully filmed. Really beautiful film. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is gonna be in my top 10, isn't it? What am I knocking off? What do I knock out? Well, alright. Definitely not knocking out Heathers or The Fisher King. Not knocking out Blue Velvet or Videodrome. That's 5. Those are probably my solid top 5. The Crow is probably 7-ish. The Evil Dead 2. It's good. It's funny. All the Evil Deads are. I'm including Army of Darkness here. It is really good, and it's another one of those times where you have filmmakers who are really into what they're doing, and you can tell, and they're bringing their own creativity to it. They're not just cookie cutter, using a cookie cutter. They're breaking the mold, so to speak. They're making their own molds. Daisies is probably 9. I'm gonna say Léon's out of my top 10. But here's the thing: Léon and The Fifth Element both Luc Besson films are definitely in my top 20, and probably even both in my top 15. So I think that's fair. Texas Chainsaw Massacre's in. But here's the thing, there's another horror film that I actually do think is scary. But here's the thing, it's scary, shocking, but also funny too, like hilariously funny at times. It rides, with comedy, with horror. I think it really pairs well with comedy because you can see the absurdity in some situations, and it might be scary on some level, but if it can be funny on another level, as to the complexity of the life of the world of the film. So Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, that should be my top 10 too. So what am I taking out? Seems like I have 12 right now, 10 plus the 2 horror films. So in no particular order, except those top 5s are pretty strong top 5s. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's just actually brilliantly filmed. The sound works well. It's moody. It's very moody. It's psychological, and it's also not very bloody. It doesn't depend on blood and gore like so many crappy horror films these days do. There's actually very little blood in the film until the end. It's so powerful. It's really powerful. It's almost like you can feel, like you can smell the stench, gosh, Leatherface's crazy teeth, and yeah. So I'm not going to talk much about that. I'm going to figure that most people have seen that film, and if you haven't seen it, please watch it. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, I believe, I don't know, 74, 76. I want to say 76, but it could be 75, 76. It could be 73. It might be 73. I want to say mid-70s, though, in the mid-70s range. A lot of these films I haven't watched in years, so I'm just going by memory here. Yeah, literally years I haven't watched some of these films. Henry's another one of those that I found. I had heard nothing about it, and I went with it, and wow, boy was I surprised. I was really surprised by that film.